Straight
Let's talk about true power and why most people are afraid of actually having true power. Because, first of all, we're going to get clear on what true power actually means so you'll understand in context why most people, even though they say they want it, they actually don't because of what comes with true power. And if you're a consistent listener of what we do over here at Work on Your Game, then you've heard me talk about everything having a trade-off. I did a whole episode on this on episode 2174 and also episode 3162, where I talked about the 3 laws of economics, so the key 3 laws of economics. And then in 2174, where I talked about the fact that there are no perfect scenarios, there are only trade-offs. Now, I'm going to explain to you what true power is. I'm going to explain to you what it looks like, what it feels like, whether you have it or you have experienced it through seeing other people use it. You have at least seen it, even if you have never actually had it. And while I would argue that most people probably think that they want true power, power meaning having influence and having say and having control over how things go in your own life, most people would say that they want that. Anything that happens in your life, or anything that is tangential to your life, what you're going to learn here today is most people really don't want it when you get a deeper understanding of what comes with it and what it really means. So let's get into it so you understand. Point number 1, today's topic once again is why most people are afraid of true power. Number 1, true power comes with an equal amount of responsibility and accountability for all things. Remember that there are no perfect scenarios in life. There are no perfect outcomes in life. There are no things you can receive or acquire in life that are completely perfect and without problems. What that means is if you were to take something like power and you had absolute power at the highest possible level, you could do anything, you can go anywhere, anything you want, you can have anything that you say, it's definitely occurring. The trade-off of that power is that you are 100% responsible and you are held 100% accountable for everything that happens as a result of your use of that power. 100% responsible, 100% accountable. Meaning you cannot point the finger at anyone. You can't blame anyone. You cannot absolve yourself of anything if you have 100% true power. So while some people would hear that and say, yeah, I still want the true power, Dre, you really need to take some time and think about, sleep on it for a night and think about, do you really want that true power? Because anything that happens as a result of your decisions, now you get to deal with the blowback of it. You want to see an example of this? Look at politics. Any well-known politician is getting a ton of blowback from pretty much half of the voting population every single day. Not because they actually did anything, but because they're the one with the power, or at least it appears they're the one with the power. Definitely to the people who are complaining to or about them, the politician appears to have more power than the people who are doing the complaining, which is why the people who are doing the complaining are complaining because they are looking at you, politician, like you have more power than I have. So whatever problem I have must be because of you. All right, this is how it is. This is not a joke. This is how it is. Any of you who pays attention to this stuff, you know exactly what I mean. And by the way, you don't have to be a politician to understand this. You don't have to follow politics to understand it. You want to see another example of this? Look at someone who's a boss at a job. You notice that most of the workers at a job, when they want to bitch and moan about something, who do they bitch and moan about? They bitch and moan about the boss. Now, is it because the boss has actually done something wrong? Is it because the boss has actually made a mistake? Usually, no and no. But why are people bitching about the boss then? People are bitching about the boss because the boss has the power. Whoever has the power and whoever has the say, whoever has the control in a situation, whenever anything in that situation is not going the way that the masses within want it to go, their default response is to blame the person in charge. I'll give you another example of this. Back in the day, from 2005 up to 2015, most of the content that I put on the internet was basketball based. 90% of it was me actually showing people how to practice and get better at basketball and ascend in levels, high school, college, pro basketball. And then about 10% of it is when I started talking about mindset, pieces that I still talk about to this very day. And naturally, I had a whole lot of athletes in my audience, mostly basketball players, but I would get horseback riders, believe it or not, figure skaters, people who participated in pageants like beauty pageant girls. I get hockey players, soccer players, football players, baseball players, all different types of athletes coming to me once they saw me talking about the mindset piece because they wanted some help with that. And anytime I was talking to a team sport athlete, not anytime, but many times when I heard from a team sport athlete, they were complaining about their lack of playing time, their lack of opportunity, and their lack of what looked like a bright future when it came to them playing their sport or playing on their particular team. And guess who they were blaming? It was only 2 entities that ever got blamed. Actually, it was 3. Two entities split about 90% of the blame, and then about 10% of the blame went to one other entity. Can anybody guess what these three entities were? And it was the same. If anybody was complaining on this level, it was always the same three entities. I would say about 70% of the blame would go to one particular entity. Another 20% went to, no, I would say about another 25% went to a second entity. And then about 5%, no, that's not fair. 20% would go to the second, about 10% to the third. Anybody want to guess what the three groups were? So number one, the 70%. Anytime I heard from a team sport athlete complaining about something outside of themselves that was causing them issues, who were they complaining about? They were complaining about the coach. The coach of my team is not giving me playing time, won't give me a chance, won't give me the ball, yells at me all the time, won't put me on the team, et cetera, et cetera. 70% of the time, they were complaining about the coach. 20% of the time, the complaint was about teammates. These teammates don't give me the ball. They don't like me. They don't help me. They don't support me. They seem to be going against me. They only pass the ball to each other. About 20% of the time, it was the teammates. And the other 10% that many of you may not have guessed, it was the parents. My parents won't let me practice enough. My parents won't invest in me playing basketball. My parents don't want me to play ball. They want me to become a doctor. These are the three groups that I would always hear complaints about from team sport athletes. And sometimes individual sport athletes too, if it was about the maybe opponents or parents. The parents one didn't matter what sport you played. I heard complaints about parents from people from all walks of life, even if they didn't play sports. Now, why am I pointing this out? I'm pointing this out because those three groups, specifically the coaches and the parents, are known as authority figures. If someone's your coach or they're your parent, they have authority over you, especially when you're young, when you're a minor. And when you're in a position of having authority over someone else and they don't like their situation, you are the default canvas for the blame, even if you didn't have shit to do with whatever they're upset about, just because you're the person in authority. So when you have this absolute true power, you have absolute true accountability, responsibility for everything that happens around you with, because of, and around that power of yours, even if you didn't or you don't think that you did anything wrong. You're going to get blamed by everybody else who's around. Why? Because you got the power. So if you upset anybody or make a decision that can't please everybody, you're going to get blamed and get dirty looks from the people who, or at least dirty looks in their own mind, from the people who are not satisfied with the decision that you made. Now, here's the conundrum here. When you're in a position of leadership, you must make decisions that don't please everybody. You're going to have to piss people off and disappoint people at some level at which they can tolerate the disappointment and the being pissed off. You must accept that this is going to happen when you're in a position of leadership. Why? Because when you're leading, you have to make the tough decisions. That's the reason why you're the leader. Is if every decision as a leader was an easy one, we wouldn't need leaders. People would just make the decisions on their own and everybody would be happy. A leader makes a tough decision that is going to make some people happy, and you're pissing other people off at a level at which they can tolerate. They are going to point the finger at you for anything that subsequently comes from that tough decision that you made. Why? Because you're the leader. You're the leader. And it is easier to blame you or the president or the government or the mayor or the boss or my mom or my dad than it is to blame myself. Most people don't want that accountability. This is the reason why most people don't want true power. You understand? Most people don't want true power because they don't want to have to deal with the blowback that comes with being the one making the tough calls. Now, again, every person will probably love the idea of controlling everything that happens around you. And most people at the same time will bristle at the concept of being responsible for everything that happens around you, even the stuff that you don't want to have anything to do with. This is the reason why most people don't want true power, because you must accept both. It's not an either or thing, it's both. If you want complete control over everything that happens in your life, you also must take complete responsibility and accountability for everything that happens in your life. They come together. You cannot separate the two. It's kind of like you're buying a product inside of a pack. You can't buy just a piece. You got to buy the whole thing. I remember this microphone that I used to use before the mics that I use now, the clip-on mics that I use on my clothes when I'm recording. There was a little adapter piece that you plug into your recording device, like your camera or your phone or whatever you're recording on. You plug this little adapter into it so that the mic connects to the adapter, and that's how the audio gets recorded properly into the video device. And I dropped the adapter one day, and actually I dropped the phone and the adapter was plugged in, so the adapter cracked. It was broken. I couldn't use the adapter anymore. So I go on Amazon, because that's where I gotten this microphone from. And I just wanted to buy a replacement adapter. I didn't need a replacement mic. The mic was in good shape. I just needed a new adapter. Problem is, the adapter was not sold separately. So I had to buy a whole new microphone set in order to get the damn adapter. And I'm saying that to say this: accountability and power, responsibility and power They come as a set. You can't just buy the adapter. You got to buy the mic too. You got to buy it all if you want another adapter. This is all part of the deal of having true power. Everybody's looking at, pointing at, and blaming you no matter what happens, even if you didn't do it. Even if you're not the one who messed up. If you have power in that area in which somebody else messed up, you're responsible for them messing up. Why? Because this is part of the trade-off. This is part of the cost of having power. Point number 2. Let me give you another reason why most people don't want true power. Number 2, when you have true power, there is no one to point the finger at or pass the baton to. Everything's on you. You can't blame anybody else. When you're not the one in power, you can always blame the person who is in power. All right, this is the reason why people get together and complain about the government all the time. Doesn't matter who's in charge, doesn't matter what party is running what aspect of the government. People always get together and complain about the government. And this is a human nature thing. People have been complaining about the government since before I was old enough to vote. People will be complaining about the government long after all of us are gone. Why? Because people in the government are looked at as the people who have more power than the average person. And when the average person is not happy with their situation, instead of looking in the mirror where they should look, most people look out the window, which is where they can see something other than themselves and they can blame that thing because that absolves them of responsibility. Most human beings would love to be absolved of responsibility. So if you want to get the masses of people behind you and following you for anything, all you have to do is come up with a reasonable sounding and logic-backed, even though your logic may be taken out of context, a logic-backed argument as to why none of the problems that the masses of people have are because of the masses of people. It must be because of someone other than yourself. As of the date of this recording, I'm recording this in the summer of 2025. One of the most popular things to blame, aside from the president, that's a common thing, but let's say a trendy thing to blame these days are the open quote, quote unquote oligarchs, as coined by Bernie Sanders. He's the one who's become very famous for using that term. Or the quote unquote billionaires. The billionaires or quote unquote the rich. Whatever that means to people. The billionaires and the rich, the oligarchs, the people with all the money, they're the ones to blame for everybody else's problems. All right, the reason why you can't pay your bills or you can't get diapers for your kids or you're not sure where your next meal is coming from is because some billionaire in Silicon Valley has a lot of money and just bought a third summer home. That's the reason why you don't have money. There is no logical connection between these two things, but this is an idea that has been properly packaged and successfully sold to a whole lot of people in the United States of America as of today. That the problems of the everyday person are somehow, some way directly connected to the people who have a whole lot. The reason they have a whole lot is because somehow, some way they've taken the money that should have went in your pocket and put it in theirs. Hey, all we got to do is take all the money that Jeff Bezos split it up amongst 100,000 people and everybody will be in a much better space. It's a bullshit argument, but it's a very popular one that has caught on emotionally with a whole lot of people. Now, granted, there are a lot of people who are out there just repeating the shit because they are in the business of hustling the masses, but there are other people out there who actually believe it. There are a significant amount of hustlers, failure hustlers. So we got the race hustler, which I talked about, I believe, episode 1824. Then you got the failure hustlers. I might do a whole episode on the failure hustlers. So let me write that one down because that's actually a good idea because this is one that has become even more popular. The failure hustler. Yeah, so I think I'm going to talk about that. So stay tuned for that about a month from now. The failure hustler, I'll give you a frame of it while I'm thinking about it right now. Failure hustler is just like the race hustler. The race hustler's job is to make everything a race conversation so that they can make you feel as if you have the moral high ground over someone else just based on race. This is usually a black person trying to use this against everybody else, generally against white people. Now you got the failure hustler, and I'm just thinking about this idea right now. So this is a brand new idea as I'm kind of thinking it out a little bit here. The failure hustler, what they do is they go find the people who have failed or are failing or on their way to failing or want an excuse to fail. So they got a wide audience of people to choose from, doesn't matter their race. And what they do is they sell you on the idea that the reason you're failing is not because of anything that you did, not because you're coming up short, simply because there's a whole bunch of bad people out here who are quote unquote successful, and their success is a reflection of your failure. And the reason that they're successful is because they're doing things that are causing you to fail. So now you can feel high and mighty and righteous about your failure because for some reason that successful person is causing you to fail. And now you have an emotional escape route to no longer face accountability for the behaviors that have led to your circumstances. That's the failure hustler. So there, I just came up with the theme for an episode that will be coming in a few weeks. So all of you know it's coming because I'm telling you about it right now. When you're the one who is not in power, you can always blame the person who is. And the failure hustler will promote the concept. The failure hustler is Bernie Sanders, for example, is a failure hustler. He's telling all the average masses of people in America that the reason that you are average and that you don't have more money and that you're not sure how you're going to pay your bills or how you can possibly retire is because there are a bunch of billionaires in the country who are doing things that are holding you down and holding you back. That's the failure hustle. And Bernie's probably going to be the poster child for the failure hustler episode when it comes out. But I may think of some others in between now and then. So one thing that always keeps American citizens activated with regards to current events, we can always blame the main person in charge, which is the president. That president can be Democrat, it can be Republican. If you know a little bit more about the government, you can go even deeper and you can start blaming Congress. That can be the senators or the state representatives. Doesn't matter, again, which party is in control or which side of Congress. As long as you can blame Congress, you're happy. If you want to go further than that, you can blame the Supreme Court. All right, and you can blame circuit judges. You can blame the governor. You can blame the mayor. You can always find somebody to blame when you're an American citizen because there are so many elected politicians who cannot possibly please everybody, who you can find something to be mad at them about. And this is a common exercise of the average masses of people, simply because the average masses of people are allergic to any form of self-accountability. So as soon as you provide them a target, a scapegoat, anything or anyone they can blame that does not bring the blame back on them, then they'll take it. There was a song back in the day called Blame It on the Rain. I don't remember who was the singer. Was that Milli Vanilli? Did Milli Vanilli sing the song Blame It on the Rain? I think it was Milli Vanilli. Let me check. Milli Vanilli. I think it was them. Yes, it was Milli Vanilli who sang a song called Blame It on the Rain. Y'all remember that song? Blame it on the rain. Most human beings are just looking for something to blame things on. If they can blame it on the rain, they'll blame it on the rain. Okay? That's what most people do. They blame it on the rain. All right, whatever it is, they'll just blame that. All right, blame it on the president. No, blame it on blame it on Congress. No, blame it on the Supreme Court. No, blame it on the mayor. No, all right, blame it on the rain. All right, as long as they can blame it on something, most people are happy. All right, it doesn't matter which entity I'm talking about. All right, the point is, most people don't have true power. And the reason you can tell that most people don't have true power is because most people are always looking for something or someone to blame other than taking ownership of their situation. How many of you know someone who just takes ownership of everything that they touch and everything that happens in their lives, no matter what it is, even if they're not the ones who fucked up? How many of you know someone who fits that description? Say their name. Who is it? Who? Most of you can't name one person who fits this description. Maybe a few of you might be able to name 2 or 3. And if you can name 2 or 3 people, you are an exceptional individual. And wherever you met those people was probably, I would say you either met them playing a sport, doing some high level business, or in the military. All right, that's usually where you find these types of people. If any of you know anyone who fits that description, please tell me where and how you met them. Most people do not take responsibility for shit. And this is the reason why most people don't have true power. All right, as soon as you hear a person blaming someone or something other than themselves for their situation, you know this person doesn't have true power. Okay, and I will follow that one up by telling you the most everyone you ever hear talking about their current situation always blames something or someone outside of themselves. 99 people out of 100. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm not being hyperbolic. This is true. Most people don't have true power, and this example that I just gave you is proof of it. Just think about it for a bit. You don't actually have to think that long. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is why most people are afraid of true power. Number 3, when you have true power, you can actually do all the stuff that you have been thinking about and wishing you could do and talking about doing now. You can actually do it. There's a song by Kanye West called Power that he put out in, I believe this is maybe 2000. It was with one of my favorite Kanye albums, which was called My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which was, I believe, 2010 when that album came out. And he put out a remix to the song. And the hook of the song, No One Man Should Have All That Power. He put out a remix, and Jay-Z was on a remix. And Jay-Z says in the song, he said, now you have the power to do anything you want to until you ask yourself, is this what it's all come to? When you have true power, anything you want to do, you can do. Nothing's stopping you. You do whatever you want. Now you'll find out if you really want it to have true power, because now you get to do all that stuff. Let's see you actually do it now. All right, you were talking about it when you didn't have power. Okay, now you have power. Now you have no excuse. How many things do you have that you want to do in your life right now that you're not doing because you don't have enough people, you don't have enough time, you don't have enough money, you don't have enough information, you don't have the right tools? Well, what if you had all those things? What if you had people, time, money, information, and tools, and you had an abundance of all of the above? Would you actually do any of the shit that you've been talking about? Or would you not? See, now you'll find out if you really meant it. You see, this is the other side of true power, because now there's nothing that you can't do. Anywhere you want to go, you can go. Anything you want to change, you can change. Any outcome you want to see occur, you have the power to really, really angle the circumstance and to you actually doing it. So we're going to find out if you really meant it when you were thinking about it or saying it or writing it down 6 months ago, because now you have the resources to actually make it happen. Funny thing about having power and control is that a lot of people say that they want them until they find out what it really feels like to have them, and they realize that they might want to go back to their old safe life of having somebody else dictate outcomes for them. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? It sounds crazy that you would think most people want complete autonomy to do whatever they want to do, but when given the chance to do whatever they want to do, most people are not equipped to do whatever they want to do because they have never experienced being there. For example, all right, speaking of race hustling, and this is speaking of race, really, when black people were freed from slavery, and mostly in the South, in the United States of America, a lot of those slaves didn't go far. They stayed close to the plantation, and many of them went back to working for, now as not as a slave, but as a freed person, went back to working for the very enslavers, the very people rather, who had been their enslavers before slavery had been abolished. And why is this? They went back to doing that, not because black people are inherently inferior or there's anything wrong with our brains, but because these people have spent their entire lives, many of them, being in bondage and being told what to do and having their entire life dictated to them. And now that they're free, you can do anything you want to do. They didn't know what to do because they had no experience of doing whatever they want to do, especially in the United States of America. Well, I might as well stick to what I'm already doing. I'm not a slave anymore, but I might as well just keep doing the same thing because I ain't got nowhere else to go and I have no idea how to function outside of this situation that I had been in up until this point. I'm using this as an example, and it's a damn good example of why a lot of people don't want to step into power because they never had any. So as soon as you give it to them, somebody's 34 years old. All right, now you got power to do anything you want to do in life. For the last 34 years of your life, you've had your life dictated to you. Now, all of a sudden, you're doing the dictating. Most people ain't prepared to handle that level of power, and they would rather not. Even though, again, logically, you may think everybody might, well, of course, everybody wants power. No, they don't. Everybody does not want power because anybody who actually wants power, there are steps that you can take. You may not be able to do everything, and you may not be able to do it all right now, and it may not all even work. But there are many steps that you can start taking right now to get yourself towards power if you really want it. I'm talking everybody. Whatever power we're talking, you can start taking steps towards it. You may not be able to take the whole trip, and the things that you try might not even work, but you could at least try. Most people ain't even trying. That's how you know a lot of people don't want power. When you can truly do anything, the heights that you could possibly fly to may be a little bit scary for you once you start to get up there. All right, sounds good when you're down on the ground looking up at the airplane saying, wouldn't it be great if I was all the way up there? It's a whole different thing when you could actually get in the airplane and you're up there. Oh, this is what it's like. It's a different story once you get up there. And I mean that as a metaphor because I don't know how to fly a plane. But most people, when it comes to power, are like the dog chasing after the mailman's truck. All right, it feels fun to chase after the truck, but what about when you actually catch it? What exactly are you going to do? And the answer is the same thing the dog had. Dog doesn't even know what they're going to do when they finally catch the mail trucks. There's one thing to bitch about these things. I want power. I want power. I want power. As soon as you get power, now you don't know what to do with the power. You didn't really want power. What you wanted was the excuse of I'm trying to get it, but I don't have it yet. The excuse sounds good when you don't have it. Oh, well, I'm only in the position I'm in because of these oligarchs, these billionaires who are taken from me. Well, let's just say we took all their money and gave it to you. And we took your money and gave it to them. So now your least favorite billionaire is now making $60,000 a year and you are now a billionaire. All right, now everybody's bitching about you having the money. What you gonna do? Yeah, see that silence right there? That's you understanding what it feels like to have true power. Let's recap today's class, which is why most people are afraid of true power. Point number one, true power comes with an equal amount of responsibility and accountability for all things. No perfect scenarios in life. There are only trade-offs, and you must accept the trade-off of responsibility and accountability even when it's not your fault. Number two, when you have true power, you can't point the finger at anybody. Everything is on you. Everybody's looking at you when they are unhappy about anything, even if it's something that you did on purpose, even if it's something you ain't have shit to do with. Everybody's looking at you. You want to see an example of this? Look at politics. Half the country at any given moment is mad at and upset with any given politician. Why? Because the politicians are looked at as the people in power, and there's always going to be about half the people who are unhappy with a circumstance, actually more than half the people who are unhappy with something that's going on in their lives, and instead of taking ownership of it, what they're going to do is blame the politician. All right, this is the trade-off of being a politician, is that half the people are blaming you for their own shit every single day. Number three, when you have true power, you can actually do all the stuff that you think about or been talking about or wishing that you could do. And then we're going to find out if you really want to do it. All right, it's one thing to say you want power and you're chasing after. It's another thing to actually get it. You're complaining about the billionaires. Okay, let's take all their money and give it to you. Now everybody's complaining about you because you're one of the billionaires. What would you do? All right, sounds good when you don't have it to talk about what you would do. It's a whole different story when you have it to actually do it. All that said, everybody, inside of Work on Your Game University, what we do is we weaponize discipline and we turn it through a structured process into domination. You want to dominate your industry, you want to dominate your career, you want to dominate your life, you want to dominate your circumstances, you want to have that true power and control it systematically, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all